Thank you so much for coming. Oh, wow, nice turnout. I see a lot of familiar faces, lots of beautiful faces. My name is Magali Elali. I'm the artistic director of The Constant Now. The Constant Now, hey, hi. The Constant Now is a non-profit in Antwerp, and we focus on artists of color. What we do is organize projects, exhibitions, activities. We also have a mentoring program, Pocpoc, which links young artists of color with art professionals. What we do is we want to make the art scene more inclusive and more diverse, although I'm going to skip those words immediately because I hate those words, diversity, inclusivity. I think it's horrible words. I think the world needs to be inclusive anyways. To me, it's like a very basic and a human thing. Today we're here to talk about the Pocpoc manifesto. Manifesto sounds like very heavy. It sounds like it's a heavy word, but in fact it wasn't that heavy for us because we had a lot of conversations amongst us. Pocpoc is the name of our mentoring program, so it consists of 9 young artists now. Yeah. We come together regularly, and for the manifesto, we invited more experienced artists to talk about how they navigate the art scene. As a person of color, we come across so many challenges, and we have these challenges in common. And we were just looking for some common ground or a context to talk about it, to raise questions, and also to look for answers. And what Pocpoc is about, it's a mentoring program, so we're not looking for teachers, we're looking for mentors and people who can teach us, guide us, give us more information, provide us with narratives, give us access to knowledge, knowledge that we have no access to now. So part of tonight is that we bring the discussions to life, discussions that we've been having behind closed doors. So these discussions were very intimate. They were very honest. It was just like a one-on-one, digitally and physically. So it was like a mix of both. From all of these questions, we derived themes, and some of these themes we'll discuss with you. I also have to tell you that the manifesto is a work in progress, so it's not finished. At the end of the evening, I'm not going to give you like a 10-tip guide, which all institutions are very eager to get their hands on. I'm not going to give you that. That's not the goal of the manifesto. The goal is to talk about it and to see what type of publication or what type of product medium the manifesto can be. We chose to have a live conversation and also to show the work of the Pocpoc artists or the people who are part of this edition. So now we're here surrounded by the works of those artists. Instead of having a PowerPoint presentation, we decided to be in the middle of the work. So this is beautiful work by Gunbike Erdemir. I'm going to name all of the artists because they're amazing, and they are also the co-authors of the manifesto. Just to prove that I'm not lying. Like everything that I'm gonna say has come out of their mouths. So it's not only my words. So we have Farid Aziz. His work is called Untitled. It's over there, it's the video at the back. So after the conversation, you can just take your time and look at the works that are on display. Gunbike Erdemir, No Need to Be Pro here. That's the name of her piece. We're sitting in the middle of her installation. Gunbike, where are you? There she is. So if you want to talk to the artist after the show, feel free. I know they don't like it when I point them out, but now you know what they look like. Diego Herman, where are you, Diego? There you go. His work is called Yellow Heartbreak. It's the painting there. Kapinga Muela Cabella. There she is. She just had a performance, I Wash Your Hands. Then we have Fatime Tohidlo. Where is Fatime? She made the video Notes on Togetherness, which you can see on your right. Diane Marie Uwase. She made The Bearer, The Fruit, and The Carrier, which are the 3 big textiles on the back. And then we have Brahim Tal. He's sitting here in front. He's also an artist, but he won't be showing his work. He's gonna be the DJ tonight to set off the party. The party is, we're gonna dance, but it's also like an opportunity for us to network and to talk about what we'll be discussing tonight. So see this as an opportunity to come together in all honesty and to talk about it. The manifesto is not a negative document. This is something that I want to make very clear. People of color, they are not victims. We see white people as allies, so it's not us amongst them. We're looking for common ground and to see how we can come together and how we can acknowledge each other's strength. So if we come up with a problem, we're also looking for solutions. So it's a two-way direction. So the methodology of the manifesto, it's inspired by the conversations that we had behind closed doors. People were involved in the manifesto, people who weren't here. I'm gonna also call their names because they have been very important to give us content. The names are Jessie Koeman, Paula Rodriguez Sardinias, Sofia Dati, Rosim Bakam, Guy Woute, who's with us tonight, Daye Kouagu, Daniela van Zuilen, hello Daniela, Joachim Nauts, there's Joachim, and Sorana Muncia, but I don't see her. So we've had a few examples of existing manifesto, but we decided to do it a bit different. So this is a live conversation. This is like the first of a series of live conversations. The second one is going to be held at Kunsthal Gent on the 19th of April. It's going to be part of the HIF festival, and it's also going to be like actually a bit kind of similar format as the format that we're having now. So the manifesto is a work in progress. Everything we say here is going to be encapsulated into the next meeting, which is going to be at Kunsthal, and there we're going to talk about other topics. So the structure of the manifesto is important because it's like a skeleton that we build on, and the themes are community, collectivity, education, practice, identity, assimilation, employment, money, well-being, and language. And tonight we're gonna talk about 4 topics: collectivity, practice, identity, and well-being. Each chapter starts off with quotes, and these quotes are things that they stem from the conversations directly, so they were said in an intimate setting. Then they follow with beliefs, tips, and strategies for people of color. And then we end up with call to actions to institutions who want to engage. The last, how do you say it? The call to actions to institutions is actually like a translation of our beliefs. I think we should look for a different strategy to look for call to actions, because doing it in a setting like this, it's a bit strange because we're not the institutions, you know? We just give, we set out strategies, we give tips to each other, but I think we need to also have a conversation with the institutions, but I think it's a step at a later moment that we definitely need to take. Tonight we have 4 panelists. I'll introduce them to you briefly. I thought it was important to have a group of people that are connected to the Pocpoc network. As I said before, Guy was involved in the conversation we had at Kunsthal. You were then at Cameroon, so it was on Zoom. Guy is an artist living and working in Antwerp, Douala and Peña. His artistic practice spans various media, including drawing, sculpture, installations, video performance, and publications. Marie Gomistre Zize is a friend, Trizes. Trizais. I've never said your name before. I just call you Marie, my friend. Marie Gomis, yeah, because Gomis is also the name of your gallery. Yeah, yeah. So we met 2 years ago. Marie is involved in Pocpoc because she was a mentor of the first edition Yeah, I really liked your take in the mentorship program because you have good advice. You treat the kids as your children with good advice.
I'm an auntie.
Oh, yeah. So Marie, she started her career as an artistic director in a record company. She then transitioned to music, from music to photography. She founded Gallery Number 8, and now it's called Gallery Gomez. She also serves as a creative director at Natal Media. And then we have Leana Bove. Leana, we met last year at De Pont in Tilburg at the Day of the Young Artist. I liked Leana because, I don't know why. You just have this very nice type of energy, and I really like the projects that you do. You give a platform to young artists, a lot of young artists and artists of color, so I thought it was like a good way to introduce you to our artists too. So Leana, she's a curator, cultural programmer, educator, writer, and researcher. With a background in gender and post-colonial studies, her work focuses on counterculture, diasporic solidarity, spatial justice, decolonial climate justice, and collective care. Leana curated show at Mama in Rotterdam, Gemaal op Zuid, Rotterdam, and has curated events like the Salwa gatherings and Casco Art Institute, and so on. So Leana is mostly active in the Netherlands. And then we have Diane. Diane is artist. She's an artist and also part of Pocpoc. Diane, do you want to present yourself briefly?
Hello? Yeah. Okay. Hi, I am Diane. I live and work in Antwerp, and I am an artist who is mostly active in the field of paintings, predominantly at the moment in oils, and I started out on my living room floor. So I'm self-taught, mostly during COVID, and then that grew, and I think for me, the biggest change was a program like Pocpoc, who helped me develop my skills in my practice, but also outside of my practice. So I'm very, I'm very happy and excited to share these experiences with you, and of course my work. So if you have any questions, feel free to tap on my shoulder.
We certainly will. So the Pocpoc Manifesto is a bit centered around one big question. Like the main question is, where are you from? And the second question is, no, really, where are you from? This is a question that is often asked. And I want to ask you, like, who's been asked this question in a professional context lately? You can raise your hand. Can you put it a bit higher? We can't see you. And did you think it was appropriate? Who thinks it was appropriate? None of you do. Were you asked this question lately?
Oh yeah, all the time. Always. Me, I'm from Marseille. That's the answer I give. And people always ask me, but where are you really from?
Okay. Guy, how about you? Where are you from?
Okay, the mic is working. First of all, thank you for inviting. Very happy to be here with all of you. I mean, I'm from Cameroon, and I can make it quite simple by saying that I was born in Douala, which is the economical capital of Cameroon, from a parent who come from the Bamileke countries in Cameroon, so in the West Cameroon, the grass field, with a huge culture, actually, in relation to art practice, including sculpture and so on. And I grew up with my grandmom until the age of 15. So every time when I have to answer that question, where I'm from, is quite not a challenge, but I always ask myself if the person in front is ready to know where I'm from. So because it can really get. So that's a bit where I'm from to make it.
Leana, where are you from?
I'm from Rotterdam. My father's indigenous Surinamese and my mother's Dutch. I was born in Suriname and I moved to Rotterdam when I was 8. I just say it like that so people don't ask more questions.
Diane, where are you from?
I'm Dutch, and I'm going to stay Dutch. And when people ask me where I'm from, well, I tell them that I'm of Rwandese heritage. But my first answer is always Dutch, because that's where I grew up. That's my culture. That's who I am. And I'm becoming more and more Belgian, but that's another story.
Okay. So the first theme that we're going to discuss is collectivity. The collectivity is the experience or feeling of sharing responsibilities, experiences, and activities. I'm now going to throw some quotes into the audience, and if you agree with that quote and if it resonates with you, I want you to answer yes. So let's do a tryout and say yes. Say it again, I don't hear you. Say yes. Yes, okay. So all of these quotes, they stem from the conversations and discussions that we had in the past. So nothing is fiction, this is all reality. Are you ready? Are you ready? Yes. Okay. Collectivity is about connectivity. Don't underestimate the power of a collective. Yes. I don't hear any of you.
Yes.
You enter an institution alone and then you bring people.
Yes.
You can't be an artist on your own. You need people.
Yes.
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 Generosity is a superpower.
Yes.
Yes.
So, panelists, which quote resonates the most with you? I'm curious to know. Liana, I see you study the paper.
I think the first one, so don't underestimate the power of a collective.
Okay.
I think also, because I'm not an artist, but more like a curator, I think it's always what I also tell people I work with, to always, find your people, don't be shy to bring in people, but it starts first, I think, with realizing, the power, that you're more than just one individual, and to know where you're coming from, and to kind of feel, because I'm really also interested in the bodily emotion, to really feel the power and to really be open to also feeling the power of the collective within you.
Guy?
The sentence which I find quite powerful in all what you just read is you can't be an artist on your own, you need people. And I find that very interesting because, not just because actually being an artist is a collective affair, but it's also because actually you need people in terms of you need to watch around, you need to know that you're not the navel of the world in your practice. You need to take into account the complexity, but at the same time the richness of all the things that that surround you or that you want to focus on actually. So in that sense, that sentence is really a key word for me. For every artist, you need people when you're an artist actually. So yeah, that's the perspective I would put there. There are other sentences, but I can come back on them.
And Marie, which
Me,
one
I think the
resonated?
first one, and don't underestimate the power of collectivity, and you can't be an artist on your own, are together in a way, because I think as an artist you need to have believers, and you need to have people that inspire you as well. and they can all form that kind of collectivity, the support that you have, the people who are gonna, you're gonna learn from. And so yeah, I think they kind of go hand in hand together.
Diane, Pocpoc is a collective, or that's what we call it, or we called it during the last conversations. What do you think the strength is of a collective like Pocpoc? Because you said like you're grateful to be part of it, but what is like the strength of the collective?
I think it is the experience of being able to gather with like-minded people, to share these experiences and learn from them. And also, not just the experiences, but the emotions that come with navigating this world. Most of us don't have the opportunity to be in contact with institutions, for example, like people like Joachim or Daniela. That's an invaluable experience to be able to share ideas, but also share them together. And I think for me personally, it gave me more faith in me, in my work, but also in the struggles that I go through, because I'm not alone in there. And because I have people around me that are going through the same, and we're working towards it in a collective manner, it makes it a more bearable, at worst, and at best, a very beautiful experience.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Who in the audience is part of a collective?
You can raise that hand. I see you.
I see you were doubting a lot, raising your hand. Why is that?
Yes. Wait. Nancy? Here you go.
I was doubting because I just didn't catch the definition of what a collective is, maybe. And I'm part of dance slash visit we, and I consider that my collective, but I'm not sure if it fits the definition.
Farid, you also? Yeah.
So I'm actually also part of a collective, the Post Collective. I don't know if anyone heard about the Post Collective before, and Pocpoc, but speaking of the Post Collective, it's a collective we work on, like on this project, like we're writing a pact for paperless artists and art institutions also. It's a collective that started 5 years ago. Yeah, and it has been great to be with this collective also. So.
Okay. Thank you. Leana, when we were having the preparatory talk, we talked about horizontal collaborations. And you said like, oh wow, this resonates with me. Why is that? What does it mean, a horizontal collaboration?
Well, how I see it is that there's no hierarchy in a sense that there's one person that makes a decision, but it's more equally spread in decision-making processes. And for example, the resources are shared equally, the vision is conceptualized in a collaborative way, etc. Yeah, so it's very, like, let's say, equal.
Yeah. This is also something that we thought was important when we talked about collectivity. It's like the equality within the collective. Yeah. Okay. We can go on to the next chapter, which is practice. This is like a job or a business that involves a lot of skill or training. And it's something that is usually done often as a habit, tradition, or custom. So I'm gonna throw new quotes in the air and you say yes if it resonates with you. Practice what you preach.
Yes.
Be in control of your own narrative.
Yes.
Yes.
Resilience is power.
Yes.
Understand it before distracting it.
Yes.
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 Marie.
Be in control in your own narrative. It's very important. For me, it's the essence of everything because there's only one you. And everyone's got that unique voice, so you have to tap in your own story, your own experience, and that should nourish your work. So, yes, you have to be in control.
Do you think it applies more to people of color than it does to other people? Like to be in control of their own narrative?
I think it's even more important because how do you want to really share our own our perspective, you know, if you don't have that kind of authenticity. So, you know, if we want to, you know, make the world being more inclusive and more, you know, loving and accepting and understanding, it has to come from the heart, you know. And I think it's particularly important now in the digital age where, you know, your personal narrative, your vision can be totally biased by what you're seeing around you because we have so much images, so many things that can inspire you, and you know, sometimes it could take you in the wrong path. But for me, the path of the heart is the path you have to be really true to yourself and authentic.
Yeah. Guy, do you control your narrative, or do you think it's important to control it? Or do you often like let it go when you work with a curator? How does it work?
As a person of color, that question of controlling, or I mean, control is a heavy word, by the way, but at least paying attention to your own narrative is something very, very important. Which means actually also learn to unlearn all the things that you have been taught about who you are, about where you come from, about how you should behave, about what type of practice you should have or you should not have, actually. It's really about being conscious of all those complexity that have made you a person of color, that have built you as a racialized person, and from there, when you speak or when you do something to enter in dialogue with the other, it's very important to pay attention or to be aware of how you're doing it, from where you're doing it. So that's why that idea of kind of paying attention to your own narrative is very a key point for me. I mean, I do that a lot within my practice, not in terms of really having control, but in terms of understanding the power relation that is installed within our mindset, actually, and specifically being a person of color in the context of the West. You always have to be aware that the context have prepared most of your fellow citizens to look at you in certain way, to accept you in certain way, to only appreciate you in certain way, and therefore you have to know how to somehow deal with that, try to open mind in front of you, but at the same time being careful in terms of taking care of yourself. Yeah, I mean, that's for me what it encapsulates, that question of being in control of the narrative.
Yeah. Leana, we talk about people of color, a person of color. Is this also a term that you use in the Netherlands, or do you have like a different term to describe what we mean by using POC? I'm just wondering.
No, we indeed also use POC, but I think it's more, there's more distinction, I think, because we also use the B and the I in front of it, so Black and Indigenous, to make it sometimes more specific, because not every person of color has the same experiences as Black people have, for example. So we try to be more, in a way of our language, more distinction in that.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have a quote from this chapter about practice that resonates with you?
No, also what Guy and Maria have been saying, and I agree also, or to add what you also said, I think it's important also to be able to defend your choices. Indeed, if you want to, for example, work with a curator or an institution, to really be able to stand your ground and to know what you want to share and to not compromise. So I think it's also more the firmness in it, in controlling your narrative. Maybe also as a woman of color, to learn how to speak your mind and to not be too diplomatic sometimes, or all these things. Yeah, and it takes also maybe some time to grow into that. Yeah.
Yeah. Marie, earlier you said resilience is power. You like Diane. Diane?
Fine. Marie is fine too.
Yeah. Diane, Marie. 2 names. When we said resilience is power, you said like, yes, that resonates with me.
Yes, it's kind of goes into the theme of this year for me. It's about resilience shown in different manners, and I think that there is power in it. If you look historically, things only changed because of resilience, and it gives us a certain power over the result, but also over the narratives that are told. I think without it, we would not, as a society, or even as artists or practitioners, have achieved what we achieve today. Because there's always somebody who questions the status quo, and even though it's not always well received, there is power in that resilience, and that resilience brings the results. And we are the beneficiary of that labor. I mean, look at everything we have. It's not because we fought for it, it's what other people fought for it.
It's true. Brahim. Hello.
Would you like to sit?
Yeah, because when we were talking about the manifesto, we, in particular, we talked about the quote, practice what you preach.
Yeah.
And you thought it was a very important quote because not a lot of institutions do that. They don't practice what they preach. What do you have to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's a very important one, because I think, especially as an artist of color, when you work with institutions and you feel like they're enthusiastic and happy to have like deconstructive, decolonial, like all these types of conversations, that when push comes to shove and there's like political pressure, that sometimes there's maybe a little bit of lack of civil disobedience or something, I don't know. And I know that it's a very hard position for institutes, but some seem to be able to do that in some way. I have to think of Beursschouwburg, that in the crisis that's happening now, like the genocide in Palestine, are trying to really show and take a stance, which I think is a very important thing as an institution, which I don't necessarily see everywhere. And I think it's a big pity, and it's something that I'm trying to remember also going forward, like who and why. And I see that it's like a political struggle, because I've had conversations with people from the institutes, from certain institutes about this. But yeah, I don't know, I find it sometimes hard to then go back and have these conversations when I feel like when push comes to shove, when it's really needed, when we really need political voices, strong voices, that they like dissolve or like disappear into the background, and you feel alone suddenly in that context.
Because we also talked about trauma and decolonization, and these are themes that they often link with people of color.
Yes.
But what happens afterwards when they ask you these difficult questions and you talk about your soul and about your feelings, and what are you left with at the end of the day? I wonder.
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes you're left with a very good feeling, like, because there's also, again, like, the platform to speak about these things is very important. Because, as we were discussing earlier, there is some collectivity in it. If we, as a group, discuss this, we can figure out and find out that we, as individuals, experience things that are not necessarily an individual experience, but are a collective experience. So there is that comes from it, but at the same time, it also always or can feel like you're used in a way, or like you come, you speak, you interact, you go home. And then I think what's important with, if we're talking about practice, is to keep working on it. You don't go to the psychologist to just vent. Afterwards, you go home and you work on what you talked about. And I think that's a very important part, like the practice, the work of deconstructing, absorbing knowledge, absorbing the I don't know, like what exists in the world. I think like you and like everyone here was saying, and working with that and showing it, because then you become inclusive in a way. It's not only inclusive within these walls, it's also inclusive with what space, and granting other people the space that they need in society. It's like more than that. And that's, if you go home, it's just like, oh, did something happen tonight, or did we just do a thing to fill a calendar?
And you talk about being used.
It's a bit of an exaggeration,
no,
but
being used. If we talk about tokenism, have you experienced it before, that you were a token, and how did you cope with that?
Me, I experienced it in my first ever proper job when I started to work in the music industry. And there were very few black people in the buildings. You know, you had the security guards, the people who clean the toilets, and then they were all white, and few people, you know, generally women, you know, secretaries. And so I started like that. I worked my way up. I started, you know, temping, so I was the only one. And I was often people commenting on my appearance, of the hair I had done the weekend on the Monday. And as I took more, I climbed the ladder, I became the first black artistic director in a major company in France. So that was a big deal. And I felt that tokenism in both sense, you know. There was a need of representing a new genre, which was, you know, the kind of emergence of rap music, the emergence of electronic music in France. So that was amazing, but at the same time, you know, you had lots of people who were not part of that culture and didn't understand it. So you kind of clash all the time. You work with the art for the art, and you have marketing guys with they, you know, or just left some business school with their jumper around their shoulder, and they want to tap a five and talk about the culture, you know. So that was always very difficult. And that's why I left the music industry at some point, because also, you know, the other thing about tokenism that is very important, you know, when you're the first, you know, you've got all the other black people who think that you have to do something for them. And, you know, our job as creative directors, you have to do things that first you like. And there needs to be a relevance to, you know, what, you know, your company wants you to do. So you have that kind of expectation, and of course lots of disappointment because you cannot sign everyone, and you know, so there's that kind of resentment that kind of flying around. So I left the music industry. I did a lot of things in between, but there's a point where, with the gallery, creating a gallery, there was no more tokenism, because I was true to myself. I was, you know, in control of what I wanted to share with the world, and it was amazing to have a platform where I could pick and choose the artists I wanted to represent. And they were all based on shared values. And that was totally liberating, and I never looked back.
Yeah. The quote, "There's power in being the first," is yours?
Yes, there's a power, because you can really, you can inspire people. I remember a girl I knew for a long time, and one day she came to me and she said, "You know what, I never told you, but you know, when I saw you doing that job, I knew I wanted to work in music. I knew I could do it as well. So I think that's a power. That's a power to change generation and to shift, you know, the representation in any industry, and to inspire, and also to build legacies.
Yeah. Liana, when it comes to
Yes.
tokenism, how do you handle
Good
it?
question. I think in many spaces I'm like the only person of color, because I also move more, I think, within institutions, certain white institutions, and then I'm also a curator, so it gives me really a certain position. But as Marie also said, like it gives you also power. So I, for example, make certain choices very deliberately. Like I only work with artists of color, or when I program, I choose very specific topics, or I'm also in a lot of advisory boards or as a jury member. And then I really try to advocate for like certain types of artworks or artists that I think are very valuable, and then the rest disagrees. But then I'm really like, okay, let's have a whole argument here. So I try to really like, put in the work to, do my kind of task.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of responsibility also, yeah.
Guy, do you feel that responsibility as an artist too?
Yes, I mean, if you really in link with what you do, I think that feeling of that sense of responsibility is always there. And you also know that you don't have the entire power to really change things at once. As an artist, I mean, I've been around for a little while now, and I've been invited to join certain organization, like kind of being the voice of the artist within the organization. And sometimes I can have that feeling. I mean, I also do some other stuff around beside my work of artist. So I can have that feeling that, people are very true when they say they want to open up, they want to make it more inclusive. But at the same time, you can see that there are certain old manners who resist while it comes to take a decision, or while it comes to understand a critique and work with it. And that's always where you feel like, yes, I'm part of the organization, I'm part of this collective. I make my voice clear, I make my point, but still, in terms of representation and the power balance, I'm not that far. I'm not making it yet. You know, it will be good not to have only a few of us within board of institution, within teaching position, within I don't know what sort of other position within different institutions. It would be really important to be more of us. But at least I always feel comfortable with the idea that my point was clear. You know, I disagree with something, I make it clear. I don't understand why this decision should be taken instead of that. I make it clear. And also the power sometime of having that possibility to join or to be heard, even like tonight. This is a really beautiful example. We're here together. You have made it possible with the team of Pocpoc, and we speaking about things is an opportunity as well to share truly with our heart what are we talking about, what are we doing, how far we want to go, you know, what are we concerned with, you know, how comfortable we are being who we are actually. So I guess that's also where certain education of the collective happens in order to build a better society, because that I guess that's the point. Huh? That's the whole point.
What I also liked that you said the other time was like you can change the system from within, but you have to be part of the system too. They have to let you in.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
the door has to be open.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
starts there.
Yeah.
And I thought
You need the first.
yeah, you need to be the first, or somebody needs to be the first.
Exactly.
And when you are the first, you bear a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, that's a key point because sometimes, I mean, I'm in support with many organizations, many group of activists who are doing things in the process of decolonizing the society, decolonizing the mind, decolonizing the curriculum, and all those things. And I know within our society here in Belgium, there are a lot of resistance within around this idea of decolonizing the mind, decolonizing the society. And therefore, what I find quite like great balance is like when you're doing that work of you know, of bringing the change, of pushing things, actually, you also have to assume the fact that you have to be present. You cannot just saying all you critique and walk away. The politic of the empty seat doesn't work. It doesn't change anything. You have to be there, take the critique, and make your point, actually. That's also the idea of making it together. I mean, there is no need, I mean, and I'm sure that's not the point of many activist groups of destroying the society. There is always the process of making it better. The people who says that most of the activists, specifically in the fall of woke culture, and we know how tough that question is here in Antwerp, the woke culture is not there to destroy the society, it's there to build, to make a different society where most of us will feel more comfortable being part of it because we are part of it. And we have to assume it from our side by being part of the society, by being within the institution, but also making it clear to the other that no matter what they think, they have to deal with it. It's just a fact. You know, there is no way, I choose where my home is, and my home is also here. So there is no other place where you will tell me or you will put me as you like. I make the choice for myself. And I assume that I'm not making that choice in order to push you away or to push you out. I'm making that choice in order to be with you, in order to work forward, or at least to make a different society for the generation to come. Because we are also, as I guess, where is she now? She was with us here. Yeah, as she was saying, actually, yeah, exactly. So that need of being together, actually, and of belonging is something that is a share, it's a common, I won't say value, it might not be value for everyone, but it's a common need, and I don't know, I cannot find a good word to make that very precise, but anyway, it's very important to assume our own responsibility within an institution and not closing the door when it's possible to be part of it. That's how we make the change. And many people before us have done that, actually, in many different societies, in many different contexts, and we're keeping that fight on, actually.
Thank you, Guy. Beautiful words. So wise. Let's go to the next chapter, which is identity. So I'm going to toss some quotes into the crowd. I hope you're still awake. We are more than identity politics. Identity is about agency and fluidity.
Yes.
Names matter. Do pronounce them correctly.
Yes.
Don't know.
Unless you're dyslexic.
Exactly.
Like me.
That's what, that's why.
Or when you have two first names, it's also complicated.
At least,
being of mixed race somehow feels like being lost between worlds. POC have the culture, they have the network. They offer new narratives and add value. Hire them.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
That's a merit on its own.
Only share what you want them to know.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
definitely.
I guess, I mean, it's not like only what you want them to know, but it's also like what you feel comfortable to share. I mean, now maybe most of the things that you even want them to know, they don't want to hear it. You know, so it's like giving something to someone who doesn't want it. So you turn on yourself.
We talked about names, and people were very vocal about it. Like, names matter. Do pronounce them correctly. I see you nodding. The girl behind you, Fatime? You say like, yes. Have you experienced it before, that people do not pronounce your name correctly? Yes? Yes? And how do you react to it? Do you correct them, or do you just let it slide?
I always correct because I think it's very important, and also with other people, their names, I give a lot of attention to pronouncing it right, and always make everyone aware that you pronounce it right, because it's their name, it's who they are, so it's very important to pronounce it right. Yeah. That's it.
Did you experiment it at school as well when they were calling? I don't know if they do this here, but I remember, the register, you know, and I remember a lot of teachers had that kind of manner of rushing to the name they, like Mohammed, like that, kind of brushing them away, which always been so rude.
I remember when I was studying at the University of Ghent, like the rector, he called me Mach Ali, El Ali. I was like, okay.
Okay.
Yes, it was like, okay. I don't know how to, like, that was a new name. I've never forgotten that moment, but I was like, is he talking about me? Mach Ali, El Ali. So, yeah.
God, you didn't throw your something at his face.
I didn't know he was talking about me because it's not my name.
Of course.
I mean, the nuances maybe that I will make on that question of name is also the fact that most of the time it's not really a big deal for me. I always take it like I have to learn him how to pronounce it. When I arrived in Holland, my first trip with visa in Holland was in 2006. My name was always written with an A accent aigu, the dicté, how do you say it in English, the accent aigu, wete. So I guess in Holland, the administration thought that wete and is very common, it's like a water. So they guess that they knew how to write it. So after my trip in Holland in 2006, my name first lost the accent aigu. So I came back in 2009, then I went to claim it back. I was like, hey, people, please, something happened here.
Give it back.
There is an accent missing on my name. The lady was very surprised at the city hall. And then she said, okay, do you want to change your name? I said, no, it was there. You have to just put it back.
Yeah.
And it was a tough process. And I never get it back in Holland. So I had to put it there myself every time I write my name. So it went within the document like that, and it's no longer there. So that's one point in relation to institution. The other point with it is like when you are within a community and people pronounce your name, no matter whether they're people of color or like white people, I always consider that they don't know how to pronounce it. I help to pronounce it well. Then let's come to the third point here, which is at school. So I was at the parents' meeting once. I have my kids going to school here. And I had one of the parents, we had one of the parents really shouting at the teacher because the kids came back home and crying because the teacher pronounced the name, didn't pronounce her name properly. And there was a big fight between the kids and the teacher. So the parent was not giving the context, but he was just fighting the teacher very strongly. And I feel very uncomfortable with it because, it's one thing to have the context where the teacher did it on purpose of not taking precaution in reading the name of the child. But it's another thing of having a teacher not being able to pronounce it properly. I think it should not be like parent going to school to hit a teacher about that.
Exactly.
You know?
They should not be lazy about it.
Either, yeah. The teacher should not be lazy about it either, yeah.
I think that's the biggest issue, that you feel like a lot of people can be lazy about it. That you feel like you're just making zero effort because to you, what is written is already gibberish. So you just say gibberish. And there's just a lack of a lack of investment in building a relationship through not even wanting to pronounce your name.
Yeah, but don't you think that sometimes the linguistic, because growing up in France, the French have a tendency to franchise everything. Everything turns French, you know. It has to sound French. So I think it's really also that kind of, the way, the linguistic approach.
Yeah, or the American way, giving nicknames to people. They just do it. It's not because they can't pronounce it, they just do it. It's part of their culture. You have to take a call, okay?
But sometimes I also like to reverse it, right, and make fun, not make fun, but then I'm like, you have written my name so many times and now you again write it wrong. So I'm like, also let's change an E and an A and let's see, Like it's my little fun that I sometimes also get out of it.
But your name is easy to pronounce.
No. Sometimes people still, make mistakes. Make it very like Dutch, like Leona, like random.
Yeah. Guy, what I found very interesting about your take on everything is that you care so much about the other person. Yeah. You the last time you say educate those you care about. We all make mistakes and we learn from it.
Yeah.
And that resonates so much with me because I don't always consider other people. I'm just like, ah. And I just throw negative tantrums. But when that other person is willing to listen or not make the same mistake again, it's not bad to educate them.
Yeah.
Because Diane, we had a discussion earlier, and oh, there you are. And you said we're not here to educate others, but sometimes we are. Yeah. And I think it's interesting to look at the balance, when do you invest in someone and when you don't.
Yeah, if we want things to change, we have to take the responsibility. We have to do the job. Of course, when you're dealing with someone racist, there is no need to try to change him. But at least you make it clear to him that there is something wrong into his behavior. If he or she is able to learn from that, then you have succeeded. If she doesn't learn from that, at least you did your part. You kind of, okay, I did my part. And that's really our responsibility. I want my kids growing up in Belgium to have another experience than I had when I arrived in Belgium. When we speak about the question of black pit in Belgium, I never had that experience before being in Belgium or in the Netherlands, actually. So, and if I don't take care, I don't take that in charge, actually, my kids will keep on facing the same thing. So at some point, I have to address that question, with hope that we move on. you know, not with the idea of destroying the other, of saying how hateful it is against me, etc., but just because we have to move on, and we have to move on together. So, and in that process of making it together, you have to make it clear to the other that, please, maybe we could do it this way with care. So that's why I consider that question of education very, very important. And I urge every parent, or just everyone, to educate kids, family, and people you love about all those topics, about decolonization, about racism, because the life of people of color is at stake. Is really that what it's about, you know? I mean, I don't have to remind you what happened with Sandadia. I mean, all of you here, you know. We at large, and we want to belong, and we know that we belong. And at some point, that need to belong and to be part of the community should not put our life at risk. So that's really something we should always keep in mind, working on that actually. Not being naive, of course, but always remember that we dare to make it together. That's why we're doing it.
Marie, what do you think about this?
The same, you know.
But what if you have to educate the person again and again and again? Do you think it's your responsibility?
There's a point, of course, where you know, you have to. I don't know. I think it. You know, sometimes you have people who have. There's a level of curiosity that is kind of sincere, and you feel they. I don't know. It's just how you connect with these people, and but yeah, there's a point where it gets very. Yeah, you just want to protect yourself because you don't want to waste your time. I think a lot of us experimented it around 2020 with all the, you know, George Floyd scenario where everyone came to ask us something. You know, everybody. You know, oh, I want to do a photo series about the black people in Belgium. I would love to shoot you. You know, stuff like that. You know, where people are using a circumstance and they want to, you know, pretend that they really want to get deep into the subject, but it's actually more, you know, something they want to take because it's something of the moment.
Yeah. When we talk about being in the moment, do you think that, like, institutions, they were very interested in diversity a few years ago? Do you feel that interest is fading? Do you feel like diversity has had its moment and it's now fading?
Me, from my experience working in both, you know, with my own gallery, I don't consider myself as an institution because it's not a non-profit. It's, you know, it's self-finance. It's, you know, it's just a little thing that I'm pushing. But you know, in the commercial side of photography in fashion, you know, 2020, 2021, there were so much opportunity and so much money thrown at us, you know, and a lot of position as well open in some magazine, and you know, and I did benefit from it as well, and I, you know, that was great. And then the money went took 2022, you know, the wave changed a little bit.
Do you feel it too, Liana, in the Netherlands?
I don't think as much. I think it's still a big requirement, also because in the Netherlands everything is, I think, really revolving around these funding structures, and it's really a requirement that you have diverse programming, etc., etc. So I think people really like pushing the diverse agenda. So I feel like there's more, people of color are more like skeptical. Also in the question of decoloniality, for example, I feel people of color are now more like, yeah, the institution again wants to talk about it, and diversity again. So I feel like, I would say too much, but it's like really like all around us. and it really comes off as not sincere because everyone knows it's because they have to receive funding.
But don't you think, just if you take the media, for instance, you know, I'm thinking editorial and stuff like that, you know, I think maybe things kind of change a little bit because around the same period, a lot of people took the initiative to do things, to take their own narrative. There's a lot of independent media, you know, I don't know if you know Histoire de Crépus, for instance. You know, there's a lot of collective like that who use the platform to voice, you know, stories that are not really in the mainstream. So, you know, they are not coming from money. So maybe that's, you know, maybe that's it's kind of shift of more independence as well.
But do you think a lot has changed the last few years? Because when I talk about diversity in institutions, they're like, oh, it's going so fast. But I have the feeling that it's going very, very slow. And for the last year, it's going even slower. Like, people are even questioning it.
I don't know.
Like, what's the relevance of diversity, or I don't see color? Oh, that quote. Let's talk about that quote.
Yeah.
I don't see color.
Yeah. I don't know what to say. Brahim wants to say.
Brahim, it's yours.
What? I'm not prepared for this. I don't see color. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard it often, and I think it always feels like a very easy scapegoat for some like white guilt, and to kind of just suss or like shut down a certain demand. It carries in itself a sort of you're dissolved into the colorlessness of it, and because of that they can actually exclude you, which feels even more awful or something, because like we have to see color. We have to acknowledge each other's differences and work with them and grow from them, like beautiful, diverse, different types of culture. And you can see that on the streets, but you cannot see it on your TV screens, you cannot see it on the museum walls, you cannot see it in the magazines. And more you can, of course. Lately there is like this kind of like new commodification of color. Like blackness is cool. We've seen that a bit more, but it's only driven, its only drive is capital. It's only like we can sell it. And its drive is never like a true political and societal shift and a cultural shift to being Belgian can also be like be black or be of color. Like it's never that shift. It's always more like, oh, in that, if we have to go there, I'll just don't see color, and then this is the solution is there. But they do also want you to assimilate, and they do want you to make this kind of food, and they do want you. So it's the demand list is quite big, and then if you demand something yourself, they don't see color, and you are dissolved. Let's say.
Liana, do you have something to comment
Yeah,
on that?
no, I totally agree with what you say. I think it's just a way to get out or something like that. But then I also always pose it with like, so you think we have the same experiences in the world? Like, to really try to understand what do you mean with that? And then like, they answer, of course, no. And I'm like, yeah, you already contradict yourself. So I try to, indeed, what we also said about education, I try to be like, indeed, are you aware of this and this and this and this? And then, yeah, let's see how they respond. But I don't go well with that statement.
Yeah, and somewhere there's also this kind of like, because it makes some people that say that feel like they're not racist. It's like I'm saying the most anti-racist thing possible, but because they do not acknowledge your experience, and they do not acknowledge your cultural difference, and they do not acknowledge your position, it makes you even more invisible. It's the most invisible position. So.
Yeah, true. I'm getting angry.
I have to shut up then.
Just kidding. It brings us to the next chapter, which is the last one. It's a chapter about well-being. So here comes the quotes, and then you'll understand why I'm angry. First one is, if we start to get angry, there's trouble.
Yes.
There's nothing micro about microaggressions.
Yes.
Yes.
Now it's racism with a smiley face.
Yes.
That's what.
I don't see color.
And then it was the quote of Guy, educate those you care about. We all make mistakes and we learn from it.
Yeah.
POC are often the subject of gratitude and a patronizing culture.
Yes.
To cancel or to be cancelled, that's the consequence of trying to make a change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's true.
Yes, Guy. Which quote? I know the last one is yours, actually. It is.
Yeah, I mean, because to cancel or to be cancelled, not in the sense of, how do you say it, œil pour œil, dent pour dent, you know, it's not in that sense. But in the sense of, at some point, there are things that you cannot accept. It's matter of fact. And when you come to that limit, you really have to just cut the thing. You really have to cut away from that situation, cut away from that person, to voice that out, saying that that was a limit that had been crossed. And still, I mean, I'm in that process of like taking care, because you're not making a society alone, which make that at some point, even when I have to cancel someone or some situation, I always take care of not to mention the name of people. You know, I make it very politely. Of course, the person will find himself within the publication I made or within what I'm saying. But still, I remember that the person will still be there. It's kind of what we call in French la justice réparatrice, en fait. The idea of thinking about justice in terms of reparation, not in terms of putting the entire country into jail, you know. So it's the idea of like, still the person will be part of this life, and he or she have to carry on. So, but then on the other hand, to be cancelled is also to accept it. I mean, when you speak about decoloniality and people feel annoyed with it, you have to assume that they might not want to see you anymore. They might not want to come to your lecture or to your exhibition anymore. So you're being cancelled by them, and you have to accept that. So that's a bit how I put that in perspective.
There's nothing micro about microaggressions. Leanna, I think this one was yours. Yeah.
But yeah, I resonate with it.
I mentioned it. I mentioned the microaggression.
Yeah, I think we talked
Yeah.
about it together.
Yeah, we talked about it.
But I kind of, I'm, you know, I don't want to cut you off, but it's something that came quite strongly since opening a space, you know, and it's my first experience as having a window, and you've got people who see you and they're attracted by the work and they come in, and the first thing they say, are you the artist? Like,
Yeah.
I could not be the owner. And what people told me many times is that you on the picture? Or are they member of your family? That was for the first show I did, because there was lots of vintage photo. So these are microaggressions. And there are also racism with a smiley. And I think when you're sharing a certain representation of blackness, to use your word, that kind of challenge the stereotype of what people have, they get a little bit surprised and they don't know how to react. And I realized that I had to take that into account, that it's part of the journey. because otherwise, we'll get angry all the time. And I had the same experience in art fairs as well. For instance, I have an Ivorian artist, he's Malinke, and he did a beautiful photo series where the body of his subject are painted with a line, vertical line along the body. And I have this chap coming, laughing. I said, you should introduce him to Adidas, That's the French humor, again. But yeah, it's we have to face that. We have to face the ignorance of people and take a deep breath sometimes. Sometimes tell them, when it's a little bit too far, But yeah, it's important to breathe.
And is it different when you express or you experience that microaggression in a professional context or a private context? Do you have like a different strategy to cope with it?
In the professional context, let's set the example where you do an art fair that's dedicated to African art, yeah? And you have, very few black gallerists representing the African artist in the ground. And it gets professionally, when you invest a lot of time to get there and stuff, it can be very hurtful the way people treat you, because they come, they think you're kind of there to help, but you are not, responsible for curating and stuff. So you have to really, you have to own it, and it requires a lot of energy, But on the private level, I can say what I can say to people when they're being silly and be quite rude about it as well, if I feel like it. But on the professional level, sometimes you have to swallow it up.
And you, Brahim, as a young emerging artist, how do you deal with microaggression? Because you still have a long way to go. Are you more prohibited in saying what you want to say because you don't know who sits in front of you or when you're going to cross them again?
It really depends. Like some microaggressions, like I'm just in shock and I don't say anything. It happens quite often. Like I have quite a lot of hair. My hair is touched on almost a weekly basis by random people, which is a classic. And I there will be other people that have experienced this. And I'm really bad at just telling people off. And in that sense, it makes all these microaggressions, and I think it's a problem that different people have on different scales and different levels, and all these microaggressions just make space feel unsafe. If you know a certain group of people comes to a certain space, and you immediately are on guard, and I think that's a level of it's something I think a lot of us share, that you're just constantly expecting for something bad to happen, and that expectation on itself, I think, is awful. And I think you can transpose it to women in the street feeling unsafe, like stuff like this. You can transpose it to many things. But I really believe that a lot of people that do these things are not aware of how awful you feel, and that even counts for friends that I've had or like that have been around me, that I really have to at some point tell, I don't feel entirely safe. I don't feel at ease always because of this and this and this. So I think confronting it in some way is always the best. And even if the person in front of you is someone that holds power over you, I think it's still a good thing to do, because most people, it will click with them, or they will feel ashamed or stuff like this. But I think for yourself to have the discussion, you'll feel better afterwards. And maybe the micro should be scrapped from this, and it just be called aggression. Because it's the accumulation of things, of these small things, that is quite big and quite heavy, I would say.
Liana, you wanted to add?
Yeah,
this
because after our discussion, I also had to think of an example, and also to add on what you said. Like, it's quite indeed heavy, and you enter a room quite optimistic, and I'm always quite optimistic, to be honest. And then I can like really switch, and then I'm really like so angry and annoyed. And we also talked about like when can you be your authentic self, right? So that really like sits with me, because then I'm like, yeah, I'm not this person, but now I became the most angry person of myself, but indeed for a reason. But I had to think of an example when I was once in an with another jury member, and we had to like look at works, etc., etc. And we were like sitting outside, and he was like, "Well, I bet because you wear makeup, I'm sure you will now only vote for artworks that are talking about makeup and like femininity." And I was like laughing because like it's so dumb.
Yeah, it is dumb.
And then he was like, then we moved on. It was like an hour later, and then he was showing, like it was like a white paper like this, very abstract work. And he was like, yeah, my best friend made this. I think we should really vote for this. And then I like really burned him to the ground. And then, yeah, so for me it was like kind of a revenge. But then later I was at home and I was like, ha ha ha. But then also like, yeah, I still don't feel good, you know? Like it really made me sad.
Guy, we also talked about the stereotypes, and you're like, I try to avoid situations when I end up being a stereotype. Do you, like when it comes to anger, like black people are often cornered and say like, oh, you're not rational, you're emotional, you're angry, this is what we expect from you. Do you often feel that you're put into that position and that it's difficult to get out of it?
I mean, used to be kind of like that, but I guess with time it has changed, probably also because you know, you learn how to navigate, and in some places you just you're no longer there, was useless, and then you so I get out of that a bit. But whenever I experience that situation of being he's gonna fight again. He won't let it go. He's gonna be again the black guy, the angry bird around. It was kind of like, it's okay. I can deal with it. As far as what is the issue, actually, the issue that I'm concerned with is bring on the table, is being open to the table somehow. In the professional context, most of the time, I will say that the experience happened where it was kind of very violent as an experience of being confronted with someone treating me a certain way and not realizing it even directly, having to walk away and then asking myself, did I just hear what happened there? And then have to go back like, okay, please, we have to talk about this.
Stereotype in which way? For instance, was it your physical appearance? Was it, what was it?
Yeah, I mean, in the case, in the professional case, it wasn't directly about my physical experience. I mean, the way I look physically, but it was more like this person was, the person, the statue actually, the person was telling me that, like a kind of joke, oh, Guy, who could have imagined that actually you would be having the best classroom here for your course? And taking actually the classroom that I used to have. It was a white professor telling me that actually we teach in the same school, and he was telling me that actually who could have imagined? So then I look at him, I laughed, and then I walk away, and I was like, did I just hear that actually? Then I went back to him, and exactly the first thing I said, it was like, you know, it's not enough to be white. You know, at some time it's not enough. You can be white, but it won't give you the entire privilege that you think you absolutely deserve. So, and that's kind of how I arranged that moment. In other cases, it can be very, very violent, and it's something as well we have to talk about it. I've been living in this city, I think, for the last 12 years. And I'm always shocked by the reaction of the police. I mean, I guess they're also shocked by my reaction sometimes because I shout at them. I shout at police. I mean, I have to say it not in terms of like, because I have to defend myself at some point. I have to tell them what is their job, actually. I had an experience in this, how do you call it, central station. Here, I was waiting for my train to Amsterdam, actually. Had missing the first train, so looking for the next, trying to see how could I manage to go before the train. So staying at one place for like 20 minutes. So I didn't know, of course, we have camera everywhere in this city. Huh? So I didn't know they were watching me. And suddenly, there was a dog around. Dog, yeah. I was like, did someone let it dog without a rope? What happened? But then I look around, I saw that there was police all around and they sent dog to me. I mean, you can imagine how, I mean, I have to say it, and it's not because of disrespect. Most of those guys within or girls within police, they don't have enough education about the world history. What does it mean to send a dog on a black person? What type of history is it? Are we in South Africa within apartheid, or are we in the USA within the apartheid period in the 60s, where black people were hunted by dog, or back then within slave period? I got crazy there. I ran to the policewoman. She was completely scared. I wanted to eat her, actually. You don't do that with me.
Mad black man.
I was like, you don't do that. You don't send me dog. You come to me and you talk to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess before being part of police, actually, in this country, I guess they should go to Erasmus to the other country to learn a bit. Yeah, definitely, there should be an Erasmus to before you get the job as a policeman, actually. To learn a bit about the order, to learn a bit about history, actually. Yeah. So at some moment, it's really something you don't have to be scared of being called the black angry guy or girl. When something is wrong, it's just wrong. At every point, it's just wrong. You have to make it clear.
Yeah, it's not their job to treat people like
exactly. That. And plus, they have been used a lot to people of color being scared. So every time I behave like that with police, they're like, and the lady was like, it's because of your security that we have to take care. You never know if he's a terrorist. I'm like, even if he's a terrorist, you come to me and you talk to me. You don't send me a dog to come and take me around. That doesn't work, you know? And we have to do that at some point to make them understand. It also touches the point of the complex of inferiority. I mean, police is around for our best, not to scare us. Police is there to protect us, actually. And we have to remind them that at some point, you know. They always assume that as a black person, you don't have your paper. As a black person, you won't shout, you won't say anything. I never got handcuffed in my life coming from Cameroon. It's a country where you don't joke with police, you don't joke with the authority. They get you disappear. No one will ever ask justice. They don't care. And I arrived in Belgium, a country of justice. I got handcuffed because I was looking at a situation happening, you know, with some people of color around. Because I always do that. When there is something happening with the people of color around with police, I stop and I watch. So it's crazy, it's head side down. But I also learned from it. You learn to understand that actually the giving idea of democracy as the best, you know, possible thing, justice, whatsoever, it depends of how you look like. You know?
Definitely.
It depends of, you know. So, yeah, that's a bit what I could share about it.
It's a good story.
It's a very good
Angry
story. It's a painful
black man
one.
attacking the police.
Attacking the police.
Eating the police. No, but if you experience like such an angry behavior or something very traumatic. How do you get over it? I mean, do you? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have to take this call. No. No, but how do you get over it? I mean, how do you overcome it? Do you share it with other people? Are they supportive? Like, how do you transcend that?
I think in my case, I'm lucky that the few people I have within my close circle are very sportive. And there is really this sense of we trust you, we believe in you, we know that what you're saying about your experience is not a joke, it's not a fiction, you really experience it. So that really helps a lot, actually, to relay. And on the other hand, I have also, I learned very early when I started traveling Europe and facing a racist situation and discrimination, I learned quickly that I was a black person. I learned it very quickly. I understood that it was the first homework I had to do. You know, I never work without my paper. It's almost a sickness, actually. If I get out of the home, I'm in the train to Brussels and I don't have my ID, I stop in Mechelen. I go back home. Because I don't want to give those guys a little possibility of getting control over me. You know, I have to be correct. You know, so I don't forget that I'm a human being, but I'm a black person, and I'm also a black person. So knowing that really helped me handle it very well. I'm not surprised of someone being racist, no. I'm much more surprised today by people acting normally. I'm like, wow, you still exist. Oh, that's wonderful. I'm really like, thank you, 100 times. People like, what is happening with this guy? Stop saying thank you. So I'm just surprised of having some people acting normally, you know. So that also helped to make that mindset.
Yeah. Oh, it's a bit sad. Okay, as a closure, I want to ask you, like, what do you think the manifesto can mean for other people of color, and what can it mean for institutions, just like as a lesson that we can learn from? Like, what do you think could be useful of the conversations that we're having now, inviting the audience to listen? Like, what outcome do you think this can have, Marie? Or is there
Well,
something that you learned or enjoyed?
I think, you know, I think the manifesto is kind of that in a way. I love the fact that you can really, people can engage in the conversation. So the manifesto is an insight, you know, to people, you know, experience, and that's something that is generous for those who wants to learn from. And yeah, you know, that's what I think. I think it's a very cool thing, and I think it's great to have it in that form, live, and you know. So I think, you know, I'm curious to see how you're going to develop the other talk as well, because yeah, it's a cool thing.
Okay, thank you. Guy?
I think it's something important, that manifesto. I mean, even the process, just the process in itself is already a success for me, because the first responsible of bringing those questions, those demands, and putting our voice out is ourselves. And if we don't do the job, no one going to do it at our place. So it's really good that you came up with the idea and pushing it so far, because it's a continuation. It's a continuation, and from this, for everyone who got involved, but also for the institution who will hear about it. I mean, just by hearing about it, it's already something that they cannot neglect, and that I hope they won't neglect somehow. you know. So I really think it's something positive, and that we can only expect for the best, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, I truly agree. I think it's indeed going back to what we shared in the beginning, like the power of the collective, the power of your community. I think that really speaks from this manifest, because indeed it shows the process in itself. Like I think it's like kind of healing, maybe for the people involved to share, about your experiences, and also kind of like a practice in like formulating or like having control over your own narrative, and also for institutions maybe indeed to see. We're not there yet. Like how for young artists there are certain specific experiences, and to learn from this manifest how layered and complex it is. So I really see it as a powerful manifest. Yeah.
Thank you, Liana.
I think for me, I think it's nice that through collective sharing, we can kind of start uncovering the systems behind it in a way. Like to see that what we experience is a context that is not necessarily like individualized, but lies within a system that is produced that we can change. And I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind, that the world always presents itself as this kind of like set in stone place and things are the way they are, but many things that we experience are produced, so we can change them, and there's choice behind it. So if we can uncover through conversation what that system is and how that is produced, then maybe we can change it. And that's why I like the fact that the manifesto is not finished. It is becoming, it is ongoing, and that's very beautiful.
Thank you so much for being part of this panel talk. As I said, the manifesto, yes, the panel talk is a work in progress, and the next chapter or the next gathering will be at Kunsthal Kind on April 19th. The panelists are going to be different from the panel here. We always try to invite new people, bringing new voices, also from other cities, to have like a wide scope. Now we talked about 4 subjects, but we have 6 more to go. So next time, if you join our conversation, it's going to be a completely different setting, completely different artworks, and also a new panel. I'd like to thank you for listening to us, and also for thinking this manifesto is so important that you want to be part of it, although it's still a draft. I mean, we're still working on it. It's not finished yet. If you have ideas or remarks, I'll be walking around the whole evening. I'll be dancing a bit too, but I'll also be walking. You can talk to the artists who are part of the show. They're more eager. They're very eager to talk about their work. They're all very talented and very approachable. So make sure to talk to them as well. We also sell stickers, and we try to help the people in Palestine. We're helping an organization in Brussels who help out artists in Palestine with giving them grants. So if you buy a sticker, you help them out as well. Thank you so much for FOMU, also for giving us the space. This was like an incredible space to do it in the hallway and to be so close to you, audience. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for being a part of this. Thank you so much.